Hello everyone and welcome to my channel once again. So, I'm finally bringing you the Baki Hanma full physical build so you can try this build out yourselves, because I'm having a lot of fun with the build. It's very fast, it's made for speed farming, it's very tanky. Like, because we don't need any of the imbuements, we save a lot of skill points, so we can actually put it to more defensive options, to more defensive skills and passives, etc. So it's a very tanky build as well. I literally love it, and not just because I'm a huge Baki Hanma anime fan, or anime fan in general. Also, what I want to say is the reason why I'm testing physical builds, or like why I got into physical builds, is that season 1 is nearing its end, okay, and what we're getting in season 2, even though we have no details whatsoever so far, is Season of Blood. Historically, in almost any RPG game, blood has always been physical damage. Bleeding has always been physical damage in RPGs, even like Divinity, Original Sin, etc. from Larian Studios that brought you to Baldur's Gate 3. Awesome games, by the way, an awesome company. Everybody should follow their lead and example. But let's go back to Diablo. So, like, bleeds, vampiric powers, anything with blood has always been physical damage, and we have all the modifiers to physical damage. And like, from what I seen in the video, it seems that maybe it's gonna be like modifications of our current spells into like vampiric powers. It looked like our Shadowstep could be like bats, you know so I'm guessing if that's it, if we're gonna have modification of our current spells, then maybe we will get like blood imbuement, or something like that. So it might mean that the next season is gonna be a physical season. Not to mention that they are reworking how resistances work. So even in PvP, if resistances get really good, Poison Rogue might not be the way anymore. Because people will have so many resistances in PvP, or could go with so many resistances in PvP, that Poison Rogues simply are not gonna do damage. So it just might. I don't know, but it might be the season of physical. So this is kind of like a preparation for season 2 as well. Anyway, let's get right into it. Let's start off with skills, with abilities. So it's 1 point in puncture, enhanced puncture, fundamental puncture, still the same reason, still the best basic skill, to slow, to get energy regeneration, apply, vulnerable to enemies, etc. 5 points in twisting blades, enhanced twisting blades and improved twisting blades to work with our other passives and help stagger the bosses, etc. Daze is extremely strong CC. 3 points into sturdy, 3 points in siphoning strikes for some more survivability, 1 point in shadow step, enhanced shadow step and methodical shadow step to help stagger bosses faster, 3 points into weapon mastery, 1 point in dash, 1 point in rapid gambits, 1 point in trick attacks that work with our daze from twisting blades, and I actually see something is different. Yeah, these points belong here. 3 points in rugged and 3 points in reactive defense. So these 3 points in each of these passives help us insanely a lot with tankiness. Like, as you could have seen, a lot of people actually use orange or yellow, whatever, gems in their gear, not for max HP, but for DR while inflicted with CC. So we can combine, the best of both worlds. We can go for max HP and for DR while CC'd as well. Because a lot of dungeons, got damage over time effects. A lot of the dungeons got like the enemy slows you, that's considered CC. So this is just an extra DR, like a lot of extra survivability, and that's what we want. This is very tanky build actually. So that's what we go for. 3 points into agile here. Another, survivability passive. Because we already have almost 10% dodge chance from our dexterity. So this is another 12%. Together it's gonna be like 20 because of course there are diminishing returns. But 20% chance to completely ignore the damage, is extremely strong and valuable. 1 point in concealment. I just love that spell. Plus, if you are into speed farming, this is the skill that you really, really want. You can skip a lot of the packs that you just don't need to fight, so that's super important. 1 point in smoke grenade, enhanced smoke grenade, increase, like the increase of damage we get out of this is insane. Countering smoke grenade, especially because we are only doing physical damage. All of our damage is basically just direct damage, so essentially we have like no cooldown on this. Very, very strong. 3 points in exploit, 1 point in dark shroud, enhanced dark shroud, and subverting dark shroud. Movement speed for speed farming, extremely important. 3 points into Frigid Finesse, still the best passive in the game, in my opinion. As long as you can chill, which is always in PvE because you're playing Penitent Greaves, this is the best passive to get. Nothing has changed here. 3 points in Innervation for some energy regeneration. Second Wind, because this is still heavily, lucky hit based. Basically, every rogue build is based on a lot of lucky hits, so Second Wind is super important. 1 point in Adrenaline Rush, and 3 points in Haste. More attack speed, more movement speed. That's all we want. Attack speed means more energy means more damage, all the good stuff. And of course, close quarters combat. That's to make up for the loss of Poison Imbuement. Poison Imbuement is the strongest, single target ability in the game, for Rogue at least. So we definitely need close quarters combat. With running momentum, the damage would be way too low in my opinion. Or like, it's definitely lower than close quarters combat, and we are already not killing the bosses as fast as possible, though we are still killing them in under 20 seconds, but not as fast as Poison Imbuement can do. So close quarters combat. If you want to be even tankier and you don't mind, spending more time in the dungeon, then yeah, go ahead. Play momentum. Play momentum to have more defensives there. It will definitely help you out if your gear is worse than mine, for example, or maybe if you're not even level 100 yet, etc. Or if you're just a casual play, like I'm casual player as well. I'm not trying to try hard too much, and I make a lot of mistakes. So if you're like me and you just want to chill, then momentum gives you a lot of tankiness. And then, because you need to put momentum instead of Umbro's Spect, you take 3 points out of Dark Shroud and put them into Malice to, make up for that loss of damage a little bit. Now, let's have a look at the gear. So, on our helmet, cooldown reduction, max life, total armor, basic skill attack speed, that's the best, and shared misery. Shared misery not only increases our damage by spreading, the freeze effect, etc. It also increases our survivability because CC'd enemy cannot do damage to you. So that's super important. If you want, like if you really, really want, you can play the Quickening Fog, I think is the name. That Dash throws another smoke grenade. That way you're like throwing smoke grenades left and right at all times. But I don't really suggest playing that. Then on your chest, DR distant, DR close is the same chest I've been using for maybe weeks or months now. DR flat, total armor, and aspect of might for some more DR. Same with the gloves, you know, crit strike chance, lucky hit chance, attack speed, 4 ranks of twisting blades, and frostbitten aspect, because this is, you know, physical build, this is heavily based on crit strike damage, so this is super important, you know, and it helps us do more damage to the bosses, especially to the bosses, because we are not playing, you know, the grenades in our ring. I will get to that, but we are not playing the grenades. So the enemies, like the small packs or the less important enemies, you know, less durable enemies, you know, simply don't even get frozen before they die. You know, they die in 2 hits. So the chill effect, you know, doesn't even proc yet. Though we are using grenade as our active skill. So once the chill effect is there, you just press the smoke grenade and they get frozen. But only elites can survive that long. So for our legs, DR distant, DR close, total armor, and then either DR flat or max life. I'm running max life and I'm totally happy with it. So whatever you got, you can use. And what's super important is that you get barrier. When you use your potion, you need barrier there. Like, that's so much survivability. That's essentially like 4,000 HP, you know, when you press your potion while injured. So having like a movement speed or resource generation or something like that doesn't help you at all, you know, not with survivability. So try to avoid those. Even if they got really good rolls, by losing the barrier, you're losing more than you get. So keep that in mind. Aspect here, as always, is Ambrose. You know, we don't need to have Dark Shroud on our active bar. We are not using it as an active skill. We are using it passively thanks to Ambrose. Penitent Griefs, self-explanatory, like that's, you know, that's the like sync with all of our passives, etc. Still the strongest boots in the game, for PvE at least. Crossbow, vulnerable damage, crit strike damage. If you have core skill damage there, doesn't matter. Also good, you know, because if your core skill damage, or like if the damage of your core skill is very low, if it's poop, then it doesn't matter that you multiply it with crit strike damage, it's still gonna be poop, right? So we need to find a good balance. So if you have a core skill there, totally good as well. All stats and dexterity, and we are using accelerating here. For our gems, as you can see, more crit strike damage. We are not going for damage over time effects, even though Barber is damage over time effect. It would only boost the explosion, but we would lose all the damage that actually is, you know, counting towards the explosion. So it's a damage loss unless you're playing Poison Imbuement. For necklace, what you want here is movement speed, total armor, ranks of rigid finesse, and then energy cost reduction, because, you know, that helps us dish out more twisting blades. More twisting blades mean more damage. But if you just get, you know, flat damage or increased dexterity, like plus 10% dexterity, even cooldown reduction, you know, all of that work here. It's just that sometimes you might run out of energy, but it works and it's good. Like, I'm running it, it works. For the aspect here, disobedience, as always, we need it, otherwise we cannot reach the cap or get close to the cap. You know, I'm only 9,170 armor, so I'm not reaching the cap of 13,000 against, you know, enemies in T100s. But still, totally tanky, totally fine. The hard here is obviously Barber. I suggest, like, my recommendation... Oh, hello, Dante. Welcome to the video. Anyway, my recommendation is, I guess he's doing the quest with the guy that I don't have there anymore, is 2.1 second, or like very close to 2 seconds Barber, you know, because you actually just wanna dash into the pack, do like 2 attacks and go out and let them explode. You know, you want the explosion to happen as fast as possible. So like, my previous Barber was 2.2 seconds and 15% multiplicative damage increase. So that was insanely strong Barber. I suggest to get that one. If you have like a low item power gear, then if you go for 3 seconds or even 4 seconds Barber, you know, it will make up for that gap in item power, you know, in your power in general, because the explosion will be harder, but you will also need to survive for longer, right? Because you will be waiting for that explosion to happen. So around 2 seconds, the best barber for this. For our ring, or for our rings, the stats are vulnerable, crit strike damage, crit strike chance, and then one of the rings, max life, the other ring, resource generation, or it could be lucky hit, it could be another max life as well, to be honest, you know, or any other damage modifier like damage to close, physical damage. But max life and a resource gen and lucky hit, these three are the best, you know? So definitely go for those, but you only want one of them, you know? So don't go for like 2 lucky hits and no max life, or 2 resource gen, or also useless, so don't do that. For our hard here is we are using, I have no idea what its name is, but it's again the increased crit strike damage. Like, this is full crit strike damage belt, okay? So it's the increased crit strike damage, but lowering our non-crit strikes. You need at least 33% or 33.333 blah 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 percent crit strike chance for this to be an actual damage increase, or like around 30% crit strike chance is where this actually becomes a damage increase. But you know, this is full like, this is based on a lot of crit strike chance. So as you can see, I'm running potion at the moment, actually with 6%. But even without, we are more than 40%. You know, if you're running potion, that it's almost 50% crit strike chance. So it's an insane damage increase. So that's what I'm running there. For the aspect, we are using Retribution. It's another extra survivability, because you might stun enemies that attack you from distance, you know, so more survivability, but also more damage, because when the last boss gets staggered, it's all of the CCs that exist in the game on the boss. So all of the modifiers that you can get out of CC is on the boss, so we need to get as much, you know, as much of those as possible. So that's why we are using aspect of retribution here. And on the other ring, I'm using expectant aspect for some more damage, because attacking enemies with basic skill will increase the damage of our next core skill, and all of the damage that we do is based purely on doing as high core skill damage as possible, you know, as high damage with that twisting blade as possible. For our weapon, Condemnation, again, the same reason. It increases our core skill damage, damage with dual wielded weapons, you know, all of that. But most of all, when we spend 3 combo points, our core skill damage deals 40% multiplicative, you know, increased damage. Super important. Also, our basic attacks have a chance to give us 3 combo points, and basically what we do is that we never release the basic skill, and we just keep on clicking twisting blades. That will result in weaving the twisting blades between the basic attacks, so a lot of the attacks will always be 3 combo points, you know, even though we just attacked the enemy once. You know, there's the synergy between like everything that we have here. And our other weapon is Sword. Sword because, you know, it's a slower weapon than Dagger, but deals more damage than Dagger. Gives us crit strike damage instead of close damage, which is what we want. And here we want vulnerable damage, crit strike damage, all stats, and then dexterity is my suggestion. But if you get like core skill damage, that they're also good. I have crit strike damage with imbued skills, but this build actually doesn't use imbuement skills. I mean, unless you wish to not play Shadowstep. That's a very good option for controller players, you know, that you take Cult Imbuement instead of Shadowstep. Just to show you very easily, right? You just take these 3 points out. Cult Imbuement, Enhanced Cult Imbuement, Mixed Cult Imbuement for some extra damage. So, you know, because we are not using this actually in the build normally, and definitely no mouse and keyboard player is gonna use that, then yeah, I have a dead stat on this weapon. So unfortunately, and the aspect here is Blade Dancers, still the best aspect and a must-have mandatory aspect for Twisting Blades. So that's it for the gear. Let's now look at the Paragon board. Obviously, I'll have the full Paragon board and the build, itself in the description down below. Here, we are going for as much DR, you know, plus damage as possible. So in the first board, we are going for some more, damage and health. Like, this is supposed to be a very tanky build, so we are going for health nodes as well, and we are going for closer. Not just because of the damage, like you could play Frost Feeder here, it actually results in a little bit more damage than running, closer, but you don't get the DR. And 10%, flat DR is very, very strong. So closer is my suggestion. Then we go up, we take Cunning Stratagem board, like, you always take this, basically, in every build, basically. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, like, every build for Rogue probably that exists, like, has Cunning Stratagem here. But whatever, that's not what I wanted to say. What you go for here is Devious, because it's multiplicative damage whenever we apply, crowd control effect, which is basically at all times, some more core skill damage and all of the armor we can get around here. Then we go to the right, we get Tricks of the Trade, sorry, board. Again, extremely, extremely strong, because we're just going, basic attack, core skill, basic attack, core skill, over and over. So this is an insane amount of damage increase. Again, going for all the armor that we can get here using Chip. That's another, physical damage modifier, another modifier that increases the damage of our core skill. But most of all, this is like canny for physical builds. So we get another multiplicative 10% damage against enemies. Insanely strong, insanely valuable, damage to elites. Crit strike damage, more physical damage, crit strike damage everywhere. We go down, we take damage to close, damage reduction from close, another like free, damage and survivability in one node. We're just, trying to max out all of the, rare nodes. We are trying to max out on the 5 boards that we are using. This is actually just 5 boards, built, not 7. We don't need more, we don't even benefit from more, and we can't even reach the rare nodes in the 6th board. So that's why we are maxing out on these 5. Here, exploit weakness, again going for as much damage as we can, all of the vulnerable damage, as much DR, all of the vulnerable damage DR. And combat not only increases our damage obviously, and we are maxing it out, like taking all of the intellect nodes here for 97% of crit strike damage. It also helps with the energy regeneration, because the more we crit, the more energy we get back. So yeah, all of the damage here. Then we go up, and our last board is Cheap Shot. Again, we are taking every node that gives us damage and armor. So damage to healthy armor, DR from elites and more armor. Obviously the Cheap Shot itself, damage to crowd control enemies, crit strike damage to crowd control enemies, all the crit strike damage we can get, we go for. Here we are taking Control, because it's another multiplicative damage modifier against chilled and frozen or stunned enemies. So this just goes so well with the build. Super, super important, and multiplicative damage boosts are just mwah. We love them, we want them. So yeah, we are maxing out on this glyph here as well, because it's super easy to get the intellect. We also need to get the intellect and max out on control, because we need 540 intelligence to reach all of the rare nodes. So as I said, the sync, the relationship between every glyph, every single point in the board is insane. It all works together, and here another damage to crowd controlled enemies, which are basically all of the enemies and more armor. So that's the Baki Hanma build for you. If you got any questions, please go ahead and ask me in the comment section down below. A lot of you actually, guys, are not subscribed to the channel. It's actually more than 90% of my viewers. So if you want to help me out, if you want to make me happy, and help me make more content in the future, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, or share the videos with your friends. It will make me really, really happy, and I hope playing this build is gonna make you happy, and it's gonna make you have so much fun with the game as I do. So thanks for watching. See ya in the next one.